Hello and welcome to the video, which is on more notation rules for multiplying and dividing. So in some previous videos you might have seen notation rules for adding and subtracting, where I use the analogy of stacking fruit on a shelf. So you keep the apples with the apples and with the oranges and with the oranges. So that's the rules for adding and subtracting like terms. For multiplying and dividing, the rules are different. So pay attention to these and take any extra notes. So the following extra rules are worth remembering. So more rules. So a plus b, it's the same as b plus a. So let me prove that to you. So if you've got a is 2, b is 7, a plus b would be 2 plus 7, which is 9. b plus a would be 7 plus 2, which is also 9. So that's a little proof that a plus b equals b plus a. Similarly, a times b equals b times a. So a times b we'd call ab, b times a we'd call ba. For example, if a is 2, b is 7, 2 times 7 is 14. Similarly, if you reverse it, 7b times a, 7 times 2 is also 14. So that's a little proof that a times b is b times a. Similarly, something to remember, a times a, you probably realize this already, is the same thing as a squared. So just for example, 2, if a is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, and similarly 2 squared is 4. Same thing, if it was b squared, b times b is b squared. 7 times 7 is 49. 7 squared is also 49. Something like a over b means a divided by b. So for example, a divided by b is 2 sevenths, which is the same thing as 2 divided by 7. So you already seem to realize that. Another thing to note is that something like a plus a wouldn't be a cubed, that would be 3a. Some people by mistake think a plus a is a cubed. So instead a plus a, just bear in mind, it's 3a, whereas a times a is a cubed. So that's an a cubed here. So a times a is a cubed, a plus a is 3a. Just be aware some people get confused between those two. So so in algebra, we tend to write it more like this. We don't use the divide sign really in algebra. We use the fractions for divide instead. So in algebra, we write like this. So although you can add apples and oranges, although you can't add apples and oranges, you have to leave them stacked separately on a shelf. So you can't have a shelf in a supermarket with apples and oranges stacked together. You have to keep them separate. But you can multiply and divide them. So when two letters are multiplied together, they are just written next to each other. So for example, a times b, we just call it ab. So e.g. a times b, instead of using the multiply sign in algebra, we just go ab. M times n, instead of using the multiply sign, we write mn. What is important is we should write our final answers to these kind of ones where the letters are right next to each other in alphabetical order. So ab instead of ba. Same thing, write mn instead of nm. Should be in alphabetical order. If you are multiplying two variables with coefficients on them, multiply the coefficients to get the new coefficients. So you don't need to erase this, I'll just erase this stuff. So I get rid of that. Okay, that should have been there. If you are multiplying two variables, with coefficients on them, you multiply the coefficients to get the new coefficient. So for example, 2a times 5b, the coefficients are 2 and 5. That combines to give you 10. And then a times b is just ab. So the way we write the answer is 10ab. The coefficients should always be at the front and the letters next to each other combined. So as I said, adding and subtracting like terms, I tend to think of it as stacking fruit on a shelf, keep apples with apples and oranges with oranges, and keep them separate to apples and oranges. Whereas with the multiply sign, I think of it as like making a smoothie. You can combine anything together to make one big smoothie. So when you're multiplying terms together, your answer should just be one term, one big blobby smoothie. So try to think of the multiply sign as being like the blades in a blender or a food processor. So you're mashing together some apples and bananas, and you would get a smoothie of 10ab. So anything combines, apples and bananas combine, oranges, anything combines. Whenever you're multiplying terms together, you should just get one big mushy term at the end and put the coefficient at the front and the letters together in alphabetical order. So for example, simplify 3b times 6a. Multiply the coefficients, these combine to give you one blobby smoothie. 3 times 6 gives you 18, b times a don't write BA, write AB. So see this you wouldn't get full marks for this because you need to have alphabetical order. So this is the way you should write the final answer in alphabetical order, 18AB. So remember, multiplying, you get a nice big mushy smoothie. Just to remind us though, when we're adding and subtracting, keep them separate. So if we've got xy plus 3x plus 5yx minus 2, these are not like terms, but these two are like terms because xy technically is the same thing as yx. So instead, think of that as xy plus 5xy would give you 6xy. And then you've still got the plus 3x and the minus 2 going on there. So the answer would be 6xy plus 3x minus 2 would be the correct way to write your answer. It's not wrong if you wrote 2. Sorry, it wouldn't be wrong if you wrote 3x plus 6y minus 2 or negative 2 plus 3x plus 6y. Just make sure you've got the right signs, as in the negative 2 should be negative, the rest are positive. And hopefully that's kind of illuminated a few things for you. Could do a different example. So if you did something like a squared multiplied by 3ab multiplied by 2bc, what would you get? So try to multiply the coefficients together first. That's a 1. So 1 times 3 times 2 equals 6. So coefficient first. Then deal with the a's because you've got to go in alphabetical order. We've got a's, b's and c's. A squared times a would give you a cubed. B times b will give you b squared. And there's only one c, so c times 1 is just c.
Soul Crusher!
Thank you very much, and that's the end of the lesson.